This week's episode, we're going to be doing a competition-style brisket, from the trim to the rub to the injection, all the way to some secret tips throughout the cook, and a little finishing touch that'll get you a final walk if you're in competitions, or absolutely blow your friends, family, and neighbors away. So make sure you stick around, like the whole video, watch the whole video, like, comment, and if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell. So like I said, we're going to be doing a competition brisket video today. Hopefully the neighbor's dogs don't bark the entire time, and mine don't act like retards and howl at every freaking thing they hear. So I've got just a regular whole packer brisket. It is nothing special because this is just a practice run. I bought a couple of them when they went on sale the other day. They were on sale for $1.59 a pound, so I bought as many as they allowed me to buy at the store, and that's freaking cheap right now. So anyways, I'm going to start off by doing a competition style trim as much as I can on a non-competition brisket itself, and then I'm going to inject it. I'm going to stick it in, and then I'm going to rub it, and then I'm going to give you a couple of secret tips to winning. Now, I learned some of these secret tips from watching a few friends of mine do competitions. Some of them are the top guys in the state, and they were kind enough to share it with me, and I'm going to be kind enough to share it with you. And here's the thing, and I asked him, I said, hey man, why are you so keen on giving me all your secrets? He said, because most people are too lazy to actually go do them, which is true. But I'm not, so coming for you. Anyways, this year's competition ring has really sucked thanks to the sickness, and hopefully we get past that pretty soon. And so I'm going to set this camera up now, and we're going to start doing a little bit of trim. Again, I'm not going to explain a whole lot of the trim. All we're basically going to do is make it a nice round, flat, round on the edges, flat on top. All the excess fat out of the way. I'll probably run it in a little faster than normal motion. Stay tuned. Alright, we've got her all trimmed up. So now I'm going to inject it. Always inject before you rub, because any excess injection is going to be kind of rubbed in on the outside as a binder, if you will, for our rubs. And so what I'm going to do to inject is just 100% beef broth. This is unsalted beef broth. So we're going to inject this. You stick this needle in, and you pull out as you inject. Man, this thing having a hard time lately. And I'm not worried about it running out. I know a lot of guys are real concerned about that running out. It's kind of silly. You ain't going to hold it in throughout the cook, so just put as much as you can get in there now and call it good. So I'm going to switch directions now. I know there's a lot of line of thought of why you do your rubs which direction, but to me it's pretty simple, and you can do it however you want. Guys that win go either way, with the grain or against the grain. I go against the grain just because when you go against the grain, I feel like it more evenly spreads out directionally instead of just shooting down whatever hole it finds. And then you have those big spots and stuff in your meat. So I don't usually use a needle this big, but it is putting out a lot of injection really fast. So I'll do about one more line because this is putting out a ton in there at a time. I know guys that say 1 by 1 squares, and that's fine. I mean, that's super tedious. But I'm really concerned with getting this portion injected, not so much this one or this one. This one's going to be juicy enough with all the fat. So we're going to save that for later. It's a little trick that we'll use later. We'll rub all this down. And set that aside and get us a fresh foil to rub on. Always rub the fat side first, because as you handle it, you knock that rub off. Okay guys, so I apologize, and I promise that someday I will make better quality videos. Apparently I wasn't recording that whole time while I was rubbing my meat, so you didn't get to watch me rub my meat. Wait a minute. We rubbed it down, we patted it. We don't rub it. Remember, we never rub our meat. We only pat it. I used some SPG from Lone Star BBQ Rubs, and we put it down on the fat side first. Remember, always put it down on the fat side first, because your fat side is going to be touching the grill or being in between the heat source and your meat. So we are using an Ugly Drum smoker. Its internal temperature of the smoker right now is sitting at about 320, and that's where I like it because I'm going to be doing hot and fast. And so we're going to put it on there, fat side down, and then touch up any rub on the top to make sure it just looks nice and pretty. Make sure we get a nice even bark. We're going to stick it in there and check it every hour on the hour, and we don't have to spin it or anything like that, because I do have a heat diffuser in the Ugly Drum smoker, and so it's going to get circulated air all the way around it so it gets a nice even cook. And then when we check it, I'll show you little secrets, tips, hints. Okay, so we got Mr. Brisket on the smoker, and check out that grate. I'll leave a link below on how to get you one of them. So we got all the SPG on it. There's a couple of bare spots here and there. We want to make sure that we're nice and even, so let's go ahead and hit that real fast. Hit those bare spots. We want our bark to be nice and even, and that means we got to have our rub nice and even. Remember, this can take a lot of flavor. It's a big piece of meat. Thick meat can take all the flavor you put on it. So we're going to let this sit for another hour or so, hour and a half. And this is sitting at about 320 in the pit. And we're going to let it cook for about an hour and a half. And I'll show you what I do next to ensure that I have a winning brisket. Alright guys, it has been about an hour and a half. Smoker's sitting at focus 315, and let's see how our brisket is looking. Oh man, it looks good. Look at that bark already being built. So you have to realize that cooking with heat, with rubs, is what builds your bark. Hour and a half, 320 degrees, amazing bark starting to build already. So that looks still a little too wet. What I like to do is I like to be able to wipe my finger across there and not wipe off any bark before I take it off and wrap it. I don't think that's going to be the case here yet, so the lid goes back on. So the lid goes back on, and close that up, make sure our vents are where they need to be. Put the lid back on, and the vents are set where they need to be. Sometimes when you take your lid off, you accidentally close it, and it shuts down, so it's never good. So I'll see you back here in an hour. I'm going to show you how to do the scratch test to make sure that your bark is perfect, so you know exactly when to wrap your meat. Okay, so she's been on for another hour, and she's sitting at about 325 internal, not on the brisket, but in the smoker 325. So let's pop her open and see how that bark's looking. That bark's looking absolutely amazing. So I'm going to show you how I like to do my scratch test and see if it is set up enough to go ahead and wrap up. So what I like to do is take my finger and just wipe it across here. See how that come off? See how there's a little spot there now? Came off. It's not quite ready to wrap up. So what I'm going to do to keep it moist, I know it's wet, pretty well looking on the outside. I'm going to go ahead and just spritz a little bit of that on top with my injector, and then put the lid back on it, and let this keep cooking for another about 30 minutes. I think is all it's going to take, about 30 minutes, and then I'll show you how I like to wrap it up. But I'm not just wrapping it up. Make sure you stay tuned, because you're going to see what I do to ensure a good bark on this brisket when I wrap it and the finishing touches. Alright guys, so it's been on for about another 30 minutes, so I've cooked a lot of these at this temperature, so I know that we've been on for close to 3 hours. It's almost done. So the first ending secret I'm going to give you for Competition Barbecue, the guys that are top 5 in the IBCA and Lone Star, all those things, this is what they do. They put it in a pan. They put it in a pan. They don't just wrap it. They put it in a pan. So we're going to put it in a pan, and then I'll get some more tricks for you. So let's go ahead and get this brisket off and get it in the pan. Oh man, there's a great bark built on this bad boy. I generally do use a bigger pan. I will say that, but I like that there's going to be a gap underneath here by it sitting up on top. So what I'm going to do now is pour. Alright guys, so it has been right at 3.5 hours. It's been a half hour since we stuck our brisket in the pan and poured some of that broth in it. So let's go ahead and take a look and see how she looks. And I'm going to probe it for an internal tip for the first time. Get this bad boy probed. Still needs a little bit more. Still a little stiff. Sitting at about 195 on both sides. So it's still a little bit stiff. So I'm going to leave that in there just a little bit longer. Probably another half hour. So it'll be sitting at about 4.5 hours when I start giving you those final touch secrets to winning. Alright guys, we've been on again for another 30-45 minutes, and I'm about to start showing you those final competition barbecue tips and tricks to get you a win. Now remember, this is not a Texas traditional brisket. This is a competition brisket. So don't lynch me I promise you, look, what I'm about to do, I used to throw a fit about, okay? But now I win competitions instead of sitting back and talking trash. Stick around. It is hot. Now check out that bark. You can see that bark. It's nice and set in. It looks absolutely gorgeous. It's beautiful. That's where I was poking it for probing. Now what I'm going to do, again, don't shoot me. This is not backyard barbecue. This is competition barbecue, okay? Just a little bit of barbecue sauce. Not a lot. Just a little bit, okay? This isn't like a meatloaf. We're just doing a little bit of this, and every time you wipe it, you dip in the broth. You want to mix that up, okay? And then you get it mixed, you wipe it across. Get it mixed, you wipe it across. Remember, this is the area you're turning in from. Okay, so make sure that's your area of concentration. Go ahead and get it all brushed in. Okay, I like to finish by going this way with the grain because you can kind of see those brush marks. Now those brush marks will be covered up with slices, and we're going to put it back on the smoker to let this really set in. Alright, but not until we throw just a dash more of this on top. And this is not the last secret. Alright, there's one more thing we're going to do. After we get this set in, there's one more thing we're going to do to clinch that win. So unwrapped, we're going to put it back on the smoker for about 20 more minutes. And then we've got one more secret to slicing, plating, and making it happen for you. Okay guys. Okay guys, it has been 4.5 hours now, and I think it is set in, so why don't we come on over here and take a look and see how that all set in. Remember, competition brisket, not Texas traditional brisket. And oh yeah, it's set in very nicely, and it's ready to come off. So I'm going to go ahead and close down my smoker just by closing these off, and I'm going to pull this brisket off. So we've got it out, shut down the smoker, don't want it getting hot. Now this is going to be your final secret before your slice. This is Lone Star Barbecue's garlic butter pepper dust. Just want a little bit on top for that extra pop after they take that first bite. These judges only get to choose off of a little bit of flavor. And if you want above the rest, you got to give them that little pop. Just doing a little bit of dusting there, not a whole lot. It dissolves down in there. Now we're going to cover this up, and we're going to set it in the cooler for 1 hour. Now I don't know about you, but I've taken a lot of competitions, and if I'm able to start to finish in under 6 hours, like start the fire and finish by slicing and putting in a box in 6 hours, I've saved myself a ton of time and allowed myself to rest, and that alone gives me an edge over the competition. So let's go ahead and get this bad boy covered up, and then we're going to stick it in our cooler, and we're going to let it rest. When we slice it, the internal temperature is going to be between 150 and 160. See you then. We're going to go from lighting a fire to loading your competition box in less than 6 hours. This is rested. All the moisture is reconstituted back into the brisket, and now it's time to slice it up. Remember, your aim is to get this section right here in the box. So I'm going to turn this, and I know that this is my fat side, this is my lean side, and my box needs to be full of that middle ground leaning on the fat side, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and cut right here. And that cuts really well. And these competition slicers are about 1/4 inch. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and take one off and let you see how she looks. Nice and moist, but there's no stains from the injection. That's why I injected it the direction that I did. It's a pretty good thick slice. This is probably just over 1/4 inch. And we're going to do the pull test, and it breaks easily under its own weight. Nice and moist again. Let's try it out. Smoky, salty, savory, little kick of garlic, salt, pepper, layers of good flavor. This is how you win competition brisket. I love traditional Texas brisket. I absolutely love it. But those extra kickers, those little secret things to make this a notch above it, you're going to be glad you stuck around to the end of this video. Hey guys, make sure you're drinking lots of water. Make sure you're going out, you're having fun enjoying nature right now. Make sure you like, you subscribe, comment down below what you want to see made next, and I'll see you next time.